Humans! They drink G Fuel, the sponsor of this video.
What the?
Man. Humans have long pondered the existence of gods, be it pantheons or a single divine ruler.
Yet comparatively few have ever asked what they'd do if they met God and found out he was just as fallible as them.
Dr. Manhattan, Watchmen's atomic Superman.
And Richard Nixon, the Monument Mythos moon god. He's no whiz and I'm not boomstick.
And it's our job to analyze their powers, philosophy, and humanity to find out who would win a not-death battle. Do you believe in God? It's a question most, if not all people, have an answer to.
But for those who said no, what would you do if one day God appeared?
The year is 1960, and the Eisenhower administration reveals Dr. Manhattan to the world, a blue, muscular, and immensely powerful human being.
On this day, the world realized there was a God, and he was American.
Fucking poser!
Quite literally, in fact. Proud to revel in the majesty of their new ally, the American government began demonstrating the power of Dr. Manhattan to the world. That he could manipulate matter on a subatomic level, dismantling weaponry and tanks with little more than a wave of his hand.
To this end, President Dick Nixon ensured Manhattan would use his powers to end the Vietnam War. Why not? He'd already tipped the Cold War's balance in America's favor, and just his being there accelerated the technological capacity of the entire world.
The year is 1985, and the world has reached a technological level far beyond what humanity ever achieved in reality. The age of masked heroes has passed, and only those working under the government, like Manhattan himself, are allowed the freedom to do as they wish.
Not that Manhattan could be stopped even if he was told no. There's quite literally nothing the Americans could have ever done to even surprise him. Good Doctor possesses a cosmic awareness beyond what any normal human could avoid. To him, the smartest human on the planet is no different to the smartest termite.
Manhattan is able to see into the future to an extent beyond even 1,000 years, and even to the distant past. Distant enough to even watch the last moments of a man by the name of Jonathan Osterman.
The year is 1959. And what once was a clockmaker has become a doctor. Life's looking pretty good for him. He's got a girlfriend, he's got a job, and he might even be happy.
He's even making the best of his clockmaking talents, fixing his girlfriend's watch that he promptly left behind in his lab coat.
Not one for paying attention, Dr. Osterman went to retrieve his coat when the door suddenly closed behind him. In a cosmic fluke of an accident, he was killed.
Well, no, that's an understatement. This wasn't just some random science machine. This was the intrinsic field subtractor. What's an intrinsic field? Well, in this case, it refers to the forces that keep something together beyond gravity.
The electromagnetic, strong interaction, and weak interaction forces. If these were removed from a man, he wouldn't just die, he would be completely unmade. The very fundamentals of the universe would cease to apply, and he would be utterly destroyed.
And that would make what happened next the most impressive feat in the history of mankind. Dr. Osterman came back. Dr. Osterman became Dr. Manhattan.
At first, it took time. He had to relearn how to put the pieces together, as nothing more than a stray trace of energy resembling consciousness. He had to learn how to put together the gears of the clock we call existence and create his new body.
So, why is it blue?
Well, he can change its colors if he wants, and even alter what people see to make himself look normal. He really has no reason to be blue, nor has he any reason to just have his big flop on cock on display.
Well, there may be one reason. Dr. Manhattan doesn't bother to do anything to make himself more approachable. Because frankly, he doesn't care. It didn't take long before Manhattan became tired of everything. Humans, existence, anything. Because to say Dr. Manhattan could see the future would be kind of a lie.
Dr. Manhattan isn't a man who can see all of time. He's a man who lives all of time. Now, then, 50 years ago, 100 years from now, it doesn't matter. The concept of past, present, and future do not apply to a temporal being like Dr. Manhattan.
To you, one day he's disintegrating people with a thought, turning into a kaiju, or multiplying into several naked blue men. But to him, he's doing all of that simultaneously. because while a lesser being would see a timeline, he sees the whole shape.
What we call now is just one angle of the complete whole that Manhattan calls time. He was never a god, but a puppet to fate. His every word, his every thought, it's all from a human perspective, predetermined. Because while the Manhattan of the moment might be thinking about the future, as a whole, Manhattan is doing everything he will ever and has ever done at the same time.
This is why he cannot change the past nor care about the future. The past cannot be changed because he's currently living it, and the future isn't worth thinking about because he's currently living it. Hell, it's kind of his own fault.
Comics released after the original story had put it out there. At one point, there were infinite quantum timelines and potential series of events created by Manhattan himself.
And what did Godsmurf do? That's right, he destroyed all of them but one, collapsing infinite timelines into just a singularity, making himself a puppet because he's kind of maybe an idiot.
Frankly, what you would call Dr. Manhattan isn't even really Dr. Manhattan. It's just a glowing blue Greek sculpture that is put together for you to have something to look at. It can phase through matter, levitate, create force fields, generate barriers of oxygen and warmth to keep other people alive on other planets, and use telekinesis.
All at the same time! Even Dr. Manhattan isn't sure of how much say he has in his existence. When he creates a massive castle from Mars, is he really creating something new? Or is he just the force that puts the pieces where they were always destined to go? Was the sand always going to become glass?
At the very least, he sure is the power that caused it to become glass. He could turn a gun to steam, bullets to mercury, or a bottle into snowflakes, or gumbo. If he just gave a shit about people.
But how could he? He is an outcast. In a world of just normal people and the occasional psychic, Dr. Manhattan never really fit in. To him, the chaos of the Martian landscape had as much, if not more value, than a single human life.
As the world fell apart around him, Manhattan was content to just watch it play out as he knew it would. But one day, the timeline reached the point where Dr. Manhattan could no longer see.
A large burst of tachyons prevented him in that moment from seeing the true nature of the future. Things just weren't clear to him anymore, but it didn't concern him.
That was until his girlfriend, Lori what the fuck kind of name is that? What is it, Polish?
Yeah, it is.
That was until his Polish girlfriend, Lori, convinced him that humanity may have had value. Not because of some strange inherent moral reason that didn't apply to Manhattan's view, but because every individual human in the world was no less than a thermodynamic miracle. All the factors that went into any single person existing is so unlikely that it bordered on impossible.
Osterman had spent so much time with so many people across every point in time that even he forgot that simple fact. Maybe the fundamental idea that any person he met with was some impossible existence was enough to give him reason to help humanity.
Though his ability to see what he was doing in the future was obscured, he encountered the mastermind of a devious plan. Adrian Vade. However the fuck you pronounce his name.
You could just watch the movie to find out.
Fuck the movie!
Also known as Ozymandias. He had planned to unleash a monster in the middle of a city, killing countless in the name of creating a fake alien invasion to unify the world.
To this end, he lured Dr. Manhattan into an intrinsic field subtractor of his own, and obliterated him. And then, Dr. Manhattan came back again.
But those seconds were all Ozzy needed, completing his plan. At this point, if Dr. Manhattan had chosen to reveal the truth, it would tamper with the potential for humankind to find peace.
Knowing full well the danger of his presence, Dr. Manhattan chose to leave to another galaxy, and never return.
Oh, but to be clear, what looks like teleportation? That's not teleportation. No, Dr. Manhattan literally moves all of space around himself to near instantly appear to have teleported between locations.
Taking this as literally as possible means that Manhattan is moving every molecule in the universe anytime he teleports. For instance, One time he teleported from the Rockefeller Military Research Center to Arizona in seemingly no longer than a second. Given a normal man like Rorschach could go from New York to the research center in the span of one night, it's likely it's relatively close to the aforementioned city.
For a speed of over 3.7 million meters a second, 0.01 times the speed of light. Assuming we take him at his word, Manhattan moving the entirety of space at that speed will be equivalent to 674 vigintillion joules.
That's equivalent to 6.76 trillion tons of supernovas!
This is a massive highball that requires a ton of assumptions, but that just goes to show how powerful he could be.
At the very least, he's probably faster. He could travel from Arizona to a little-known American state known as Mars! 850 times faster than light. And who knows what he did after leaving the galaxy with a desire to create new life.
Well, I can tell you who. We do. Because whatever Manhattan's intentions were, he was drawn to a different world. One with heroes. One where the timeline was not predetermined.
The year is 1938, and a hero known as Superman makes his debut saving lives.
The year is 1956. A hero known as Superman makes his debut. The year is 1986, and a hero known as Superman makes his debut. It changes again and again.
Dr. Manhattan watches from afar as crisis after crisis occurs, changes to this universe's timeline happening around him. Unaffected but confused, he tries to adjust and understand the mechanics of this new world.
In a world where he doesn't exist and nothing is predetermined, he begins making his own changes. In a world of hope, he becomes a villain.
Manhattan's machinations did not go unnoticed, but who could stop him? Just by breaking his way into this reality, he nearly brought the destruction of the entire microverse, a land connecting the entire multiverse. He could break holes in the Speed Force, destroy multiversal beings like Pandora, save people from their deaths and bring them to the lands beyond time and space.
He could go beyond hypertime, surpass higher dimensional beings like Darkseid and Mr. Mixie Spittle.
Okay, that was on purpose!
Beings that literally exist more than you, and can warp reality on a multiversal scale. This character, the Quantum Superman, has described a two-dimensional space-time continuum as appearing to a normal human as nothing more real than a comic book.
Now imagine how a three-dimensional being like you would look to him.
One time, Dr. Manhattan encountered Eobard Thawne, the Reverse Flash, a living paradox, a constant across all of time who could not be killed or erased because he was an undeniable and indelible fact of reality. And in one motion, Dr. Manhattan killed him anyway.
Dr. Manhattan didn't encounter this universe. The universe encountered Dr. Manhattan. In a world with so many new things he'd never encountered before, where the uncertainty of the timeline meant he wasn't always certain how things would go, Manhattan had a reason to care. He was marveled by the emotional power wielded by the Lantern Corps, and the holes in reality that magicians like Zatanna called magic, even replicating it in just a glance.
But nothing confused him more than the empty space in his view of the future. He could look 1,000 years, but the last thing he saw was Superman attacking him. Would Superman kill him, or would he kill everything?
Unsure, for the first time in years, Dr. Manhattan awaited the fateful moment they would encounter. He even took out countless superheroes just to make sure they wouldn't get in the way. It didn't matter if they're as fast as Captain Atom, whose powers were so fast that within only a nanosecond they could destroy and recreate the entire universe, or even beyond the limits of infinity like the Flash. They couldn't stop the Doctor.
At last he encountered Superman. He told him everything, that he was the one who shifted the scales and stole 10 entire years to bring the world to the point it was. That he was the one who entered his life when he was nothing more than Clark Kent. He was the one who killed Clark's parents. And in a moment of anger, Superman protected him.
Dr. Manhattan was confused, unsure, and for the first time, inspired. Having lived in a world where heroes like Superman only existed in comics, he saw for the first time a man so selfless and so full of hope that he would protect the killer of his own parents just because he could.
In that moment, Dr. Manhattan understood. Superman made him aware of his narrow-minded view. Either he's destroyed or he destroys the universe? No, a third option existed for Manhattan. To undo the damage done, restore the timeline to how it was before he encountered it, and to fix what was broken. To put the gears back together and let the clock run again.
The 2 minutes to midnight had passed, and Dr. Manhattan was gone. But not forgotten. As it turns out, Manhattan's power was so great as to be brimming with kinetic energy. A form of power so great that even when just a fragment was harnessed by the Justice League, it could match and potentially even surpass Perpetua.
Wait, but isn't it pronounced Perpetua?
I don't know. I've given up on all these fucking names!
A being that
Go fuck yourself!
A being that exists beyond the multiverse to such an extent that just by fighting, she destroys things on a narrative level. Stories are being erased fundamentally just by her fighting against an equal.
It's no wonder he stopped caring, stopped being so interested in the day-to-day lives of people so far below him that they barely registered as real.
Which made it all the more powerful when Superman inspired him. Eventually, the threads in the timeline created by Dr. Manhattan and all of those before him were unraveled, and the universe he had discovered returned to the truth, saving itself from its darkest night and finally freeing itself from his influence.
It's 1959. And Dr. Osterman decides to get his lab coat after he finished lunch. In 6 months, he's married. In 1962, he has a daughter, followed by another in 1963, and a son in 1967.
Well, that would be a nice daydream to live in. A final thought, as Dr. Manhattan gives the last of his power to the child in his arms, to a protector, a hero that Dr. Manhattan could never be. With his final steps, Jonathan Osterman erases himself from being, and leaves the future in the hands of a boy.
The hands of a boy who will be given love by this world, and return it. A boy named Clark.
Do you believe in fate? Are things predetermined? Do you have free will?
The answer is different for everyone, but in one world, the question was answered.
D-Day, when the liberation of France begun. In our world, over 10,000 soldiers died on this day. But in this one, a man appeared in the sky.
Wearing the skull of a horned serpent, this man became known as the D-Day Knight, strong enough to destroy anti-aircraft guns, durable enough to tank gunfire, and more than powerful enough to walk off an explosion with little more than his hat falling off.
A being from a world that was destroyed, his atoms were free from predetermination. He was the only person on Earth with true free will.
Also he thought, because not long after, the world would meet another hero known as the Last Son.
This one was not born the height of a man, but much taller. A contentious youth, he suffered an accident when he was young that cost the life of a man known as James Dean. From then on, he decided to dedicate his life to winning by any means necessary, so he could save as many lives as possible.
Faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, and capable of flying anywhere to save the day from his fortress in Alaska!
He also looks like Kirk Allen for some reason. The Last Son was instrumental in the Korean War, intervening on the behalf of both sides to ensure that as few people lost their lives as possible.
With these heroes, humanity was truly safe. But humanity didn't feel that way.
Believing the Last Son was a threat who could one day take over the world, the United States military decided he should be followed home by a bombardment of nuclear missiles.
Luckily, the Last Son was too tough to be killed by mere missiles, especially not in 1953, where the strongest nuke only hit around 10 megatons of TNT.
Unluckily, the Last Son was too tough to be killed by mere missiles. All they could do was take out one of his eyes. But that was all the United States needed.
You see, only a decade later, the Apollo 11 mission would occur, landing the first men on the moon. But what they found was a living being.
An unknown amount of time prior, a woman was born on the moon. She knew nothing of the past, nothing about her present, and nothing about herself. All she knew was that she was Queen, the Queen of the Lunarians.
But with no subjects, she had no choice but to create a city for when they one day returned to her, creating oxygen in the air for them to breathe.
When humans arrived, they found the whole moon had air and an atmosphere. To create enough oxygen to surround the entire moon, the Lunarian Queen would have had to output 30 petatons of TNT. That's enough power to annihilate America easily. But that was not her goal.
She wanted to be a good and just ruler, but humanity had other plans.
One of the men shot her with guns, resulting in devastating retaliation. In only 63 seconds, the Queen had evicted the man who ordered it from reality.
Humanity would blow off one of her eyes and implant it into the last sun. With all the pieces in place, shit would proceed to demonstrably hit the fan.
The last sun was turned into a bastardization of the Messiah himself. Invading Vietnam and blasting it with explosives in a blatant display of propaganda, the United States declared holy rulership and dominion over mankind. Their Jesus was better than your Jesus. Their freedom was better than your freedom.
The whole world was the property of the United Americas.
Upon reading of a prophecy, the Lunarian Queen came to the conclusion that humanity was built upon the bedrock of inequality. She couldn't rightfully call herself a just queen if she didn't save them from themselves. She turned the oxygen she breathed upon the moon into a cloud ship and made her way to Earth.
By the time she had arrived, the last son had turned himself into a house on the ocean to hide away, to grieve alone. He refused to become a weapon for anybody else. And she didn't care.
Controlling his mind, the Lunarian Queen made him into a weapon just like the people she had wanted to fix. She fundamentally warped human perception, altering mankind's languages until they could not possibly read, write, or speak anymore, aided by the Lunarian cloud ship's electrical brain surgery.
Not to mention the Queen's ability to Lumarianize people, turning them into crescent-headed freaks that became the Lunarians she ruled over.
But someone needed to save the day. Alice Avenue, a normal human being, tried to bring the last son's senses back. She shared his story, the truth behind who he was, and for her troubles, the D-Day night turned into a kaiju and threw her off the Chrysler building.
What the? Ah!
But when he had realized what he'd done, he fell to grief and sorrow, reduced to a blob of mourning that lacked any sense of sight, smell, or touch.
Ready to complete her prophecy, the Lunarian Queen finally appeared before him, extending her arm out in peace.
But her peace was one built on the suffering of others. The D-Day Knight refused. To him, there was no prophecy. There was only him. In a burst of raw power, he destroyed the entire Lunarian race and their queen, restoring language as he spread across the entire world.
For some, it was too late. But what even caused these events? Why was it that this world was being invaded by these beings from another entire universe? Was someone pulling the strings? Was there a god?
The answer could be found decades prior, in a cosmic event known as the Great Division.
In a world where monuments lived, a grand being known as the Horned Serpent sought freedom. It beckoned and called until humanity finally listened.
In a clash between two beings of infinite power, the world cracked open and the Horned Serpent awoke, tearing apart the entire universe and shattering its survivors into beings known as cornerfolk.
That is, aside from one, Richard Nixon. This man had been ejected from the Horned Serpent and came to another reality where he landed on the moon.
But even that is only half of the story, because Nixon wasn't simply a man, but a being composed of Alcatraz matter.
In yet another universe, a being known as Alcatraz desired to become a god, creating two beings to manipulate mankind into nuking the world so that it could grow in power. Upon achieving this goal, its creations flew 25 light years away and entered a black hole so they could enter a new world.
And then one thing led to another that led to another, and the Horned Serpent was born and destroyed reality.
As a being composed of both Alcatraz and the Horned Serpent, Nixon was something akin to a god, a being of immeasurable power. He created free extensions of himself. That's right, the Lunarian Queen, the D-Day Knight, and the last son of Alcatraz.
Being their creator, Nixon should have all of their abilities as his own, as well as powers akin to those of the Horned Serpent's special trees.
The special trees are extensions of the horned serpent that lead to a realm known as Wonderland, an infinitely extending spiraling realm of existence where just the sound playing throughout can destroy your mind.
The special trees can alter reality, generate lightning, teleport people to other realities, and even stretch between universes.
Just coming into contact with them stretches out and warps a person's body, such as when George Washington had tried to cut down one, and was ripped and stretched into being the Horned Serpent. That's right, the Horned Serpent's extension created itself.
It's almost like beings such as himself are beyond space and time. Ethereal cosmic entities that do not rely on reality to support themselves.
And being made of Alcatraz matter means Nixon likely has similar abilities to the giant literal prison cell itself, like self-replication, size changing, and possession. It also means contact with any kind of matter fundamentally changes it, altering any protons into alcatrons, living sentient molecules that each think and feel.
Alcatraz itself was able to consume a third of America, and then within a single night, expand across and replace every single particle within the other 2/3 without anybody noticing.
And this is the kind of power baked into Nixon naturally. With this power, Nixon's extensions were made to test if mankind could even accept him. He sent his experiments to meet mankind, knowing they would fail. The world of man would never be kind to superhumans like them, and their sacrifice would make Nixon realize he could never risk stepping foot on Earth.
The closest he would ever get to that pale blue dot was the moon.
But even he could have gone without what happened next. As the last son of Alcatraz lost his mind and was overcome with grief, he became the Crescent King.
The Crescent King is an odd being. Some say that he is a cosmic horror that invades the minds of all of those who know him. A cognito hazard capable of rewriting your brain so that it always remembers him. A gateway for his majesty into your body from which he can tear apart and mutilate your form.
Whether that was true or not, Nixon knew that a confrontation between himself and the Crescent King would be disastrous, akin to the destruction of his own world.
And this is no exaggeration. Other weaker beings could accomplish incredible feats. The debate demon and monument monster could survive black holes. The Statue of Freedom and the Air Force One angel could crack open the earth. And another being called Chase could seemingly create stars.
So a battle between these two could likely destroy the planet. Instead of that, Nixon chose the far less destructive solution.
Nixon turned the entire universe into a fiction.
In the same way that mythology and legend took power from gods and monsters, the Crescent King would hold no authority if nobody believed he was real. He rendered the king, himself, and the universe into nothingness.
But who could say if it worked? Even as a fiction, people still knew about the Crescent King's existence. Perhaps even from that he could worm his way in and alter your mind.
Though some called him a god, Nixon was anything but. He was a fool, a coward, a man who created a test he knew would fail just to justify his own unwillingness to come to mankind.
And it's not like we could have done anything to him. Not only can he destroy whole universes, he's literally made out of two divine entities. One that exists beyond space-time, able to simultaneously be locked under the earth and have its own ripped-out skull used as a weapon, and one that became a god just by being irradiated.
Lesser beings like these stars could fly from the stratosphere to the surface within the blink of an eye. That's 50,000 meters within only 0.01 seconds, a speed of Mach 1457.
And those two Alcatraz beings that could fly to a black hole 25 light years away, even if it took a whole year, that would still be 25 times the speed of light.
But in the end, it's hard to really quantify Nixon with stats and numbers. After all, he's literally able to erase the past from being. What authority does time and space have over someone like that?
And in that regard, what authority does Nixon have over anyone?
The man was a coward. One who killed another just for interviewing him. One who refused to leave the moon.
He let grief make a monster of the last son of Alcatraz. He allowed suffering to make a beast of the D-Day night. he did nothing as wrath created a villain of the Queen of the Lunarians.
Richard Nixon was no god. He wasn't even a man. The person he killed, the innocent man known as Ed Dwight, was twice the god that Nixon could ever be.
Nixon was nothing more than a survivor who did what everyone wished they could do, toy with the world itself. But Ed Dwight was kind, bold, and good.
In the Nixonverse, Ed Dwight went to the moon. But in our world, he would write stories. Whereas Nixon would erase the past, Dwight would preserve it. He did something that Richard Nixon could never do.
In our world, Ed Dwight created monuments.
Alright, well, weapons doesn't really fit this. The gods! No, that's not right either. The president made a funny stuff with funny powers, and the guy who knew the president, he also made a funny stuff with funny powers already, and the combatants, shit! There is it, go! No music! Read over the line. Here's your line.
Hey, Noah's! I just got a VHS, and I don't know what it says!
Well, there's only one way to find out. So, see what it says. It could be good news. I love to get good news.
Yeah, me too. What if it's a secret ad read and I just got advertised to?
Then we can have a nice drink together.
What?
This is a county announcement. Strange pumpkin people have returned to the land of the living. They have been spotted turning live people into jack-o'-lanterns. They appear to be outraged that they have awoken before Halloween. This is not a drill. The pumpkin people are attacking anyone on sight, even in broad daylight.
Yeah, I know what to do. Uh-oh.
This is a county announcement. Anyone who needs to leave their home to purchase groceries will be required to first order G Fuel, the sponsor of the CAS announcement. The goofy pumpkin people cannot do anything about it. They have been spotted with hyper-realistic eyes looking for G Fuel. It is their only weakness. G Fuel contains 0 carbs, calories, or sugars, making it hard for the pumpkin people to detect.
Oh, where'd he go?
The high level of antioxidants makes it easy to outrun the pumpkin people.
Man, I wish I had more antioxidants. And I wasn't bad.
Those under the age of 18 are warned not to drink tea fuel due to its caffeine content. Those who do must drink it responsibly, lest the pumpkin people unleash their ultimate weapon.
Haha! You can't kill me! I drank 700 liters of G Fuel. Get the party!
For ease of access, it is advised to head to the link in the description and use code BLOODRIGHT for 20% off of your order. From there, you may order any of over 50 flavors available in tubs or cans. This concludes this broadcast.
But wait, there's no description. Oh no. Who is this? Identify yourself!
The tactical nuke is incoming! Get under cover!
Oh, gee. What's this about a nuke?
Alright, the weapons are ready and the commands are set. Let's end this pointless debate once and for all.
It's time for Dr. Manhattan vs. Richard.
Nixon.
I'm not death metal!
I thought I was going to die. And then, out of nowhere, there was this light. I think it was him. The last son? I swear my father's life, he saved me. Did you know my dad took part in the war? He used to tell me stories about the night...
Mr. Osterman,
I pulled you away.
The night attacked us. The night killed us. Come, our prince. We can fix this.
You are unmoored from fate, yet you choose to live as the fated?
The human's world is unequal. Order is lost. Fate is order.
You speak of equality, but you would force it on others. That is not equality. That is superiority.
We could give you everything. You are from a different world. Are humans peaceful?
No, they are not.
Then we can rule both worlds. Rule alongside me. Rule with our king. Our prophecy.
If your choice is to live as the fated, I will return you to your fate. You defied your fate, but in your anger, you destroyed them all. Why were you so sure humankind deserved to live more than the Lunarians? How strange this Alcatraz matter. It is abnormal. It is distinct from predetermination. I understand. You wouldn't say anything if you could. It is who you are. Grief has made you a monster. I can help you. I can return you to what you were. But I know what you will say.
Everyone has changed me into something else. You will turn me into another weapon. A weapon against myself. I will not be another weapon.
You blame all of humanity for what the few did to you.
I wish I could. If I could blame them all, I would not feel this pain. I am alone.
You do not have to be.
It's too late.
An isolated queen of peace turned to cruelty. A sullen knight of resistance turned to madness. A hopeful son of heroism turned to grief. I see. They are only pieces of a whole. I see you.
I knew when you arrived that you would find me eventually, that you would come here. I will not fight you. I will not see another world destroyed.
A queen who forces her will onto the world. A knight who kills in anger. A hero who lost his way. Those were aspects of you. You made them to fail. I do not understand.
You were made to test that world, to see if they would accept me. But the world does not accept those with more power than them. Savior or destroyer, they will try to drag me down to their level. They failed the test.
But is a test they did not know about fair? Can you pass a test without knowing the test is happening?
I have seen what mankind does when they know. I have seen both sides. I sent the saviors. They made them monsters, as they would have made me.
If you would so easily become a monster, did you consider that you do not deserve to be accepted? You sent them a test you knew they would fail. You sent them weapons you knew they would use. The omniscient cannot blind themselves with ignorance. You have no determined future, neither puppet nor god. What will you do now?
There is nothing left. I had planned to turn this world to fiction, to remove the Crescent King's power. But what you did, he is gone. Soon, even my memory of him will disappear. Now there is only one thing to do. I must remove myself.
You should come with me, to the world. There is nobody left. You can stand on the planet you've watched for so long, without worrying about what might happen.
That sounds nice. It looks the same, from here or from there.
The shadow cast by men like us stretches as far as it will, whether cast from ground or sky.
What will you do?
You do not have to turn to fiction. It was some time now. I saw someone. An alien who chose to be a man. I killed his family, and he chose to protect me. I am not that man.
What happened to him?
I do not know. I do not wish to know. There is a beauty in it. I have seen all of time itself as a single moment. All of existence in a tapestry of predetermination. But that one man defied it. I will never know what becomes of him. But I choose to believe his heroism will remain. I am returning to my world. I do not know what I will do. But I can help you. I can give you a peaceful end.
Do I have a choice? Thank you.
It's 1980. I meet a man on the moon. It's 1944. Countless men die on D-Day. It's 1953. The Vietnam War continues. It's 1980. The man on the moon tells me he is testing Earth. It's 1944. Nobody dies. It's 1953. The war ends. It's 1980. There is no man on the moon.
What the fuck was that? What happened?
This one was tricky. Not because the result was hard to come to, but because it was hard to just figure out what would even happen if these two encountered one another.
These are not characters prone to fisticuffs or reality-bending Doctor Strange-ass combat. That's not to say they cannot fight. Dr. Manhattan's powers have been used to fight in the past, even if not by him, and Nixon has claimed he could fight the Crescent King. But it's not something either would necessarily do.
We can separate this matchup into two lanes. What could happen and what would happen. In other words, comparing the power sets and comparing the characters.
Let's start with the latter. Manhattan is simple. When faced with something interesting, he will usually observe it, curious and unsure. When encountering the superheroes of the DC Metaverse, he didn't kill them unless it was specifically to satiate his curiosity.
He manipulated events to kill Alan Scott, the original Green Lantern, just to see what would happen to the timeline. But when it didn't befit him, he didn't kill any of the heroes that actually attacked him.
Reasonably, someone completely exempt from fate like Nixon would likely be of great interest to him. He'd want to study and look into him, to understand. And if forced to kill him, he would simply explode him up.
Nixon, however, is much more direct. While an observer, when the need comes, he has no problem with just evicting things from reality. He's willing to throw hands, but if the cost is too high, he'd rather rend his opponent to fiction.
We are, of course, making assumptions here. We're not the people who wrote these characters, but this is what can be observed. So, we have this question. Could Nixon evict Manhattan from reality? Could Nixon turn Manhattan into fiction? And could Dr. Manhattan blow Richard up?
To get it out of the way, no. Just no. Nixon's controlled over and manipulation of reality just does not compare to what Manhattan can do.
Mr. Stupid-ass Name himself deems himself nothing next to Manhattan, and he can just up and manipulate reality on a ridiculous degree.
This guy can destroy concepts, but even he can't do anything to Manhattan. That's a level of reality warping way beyond what Nixon's ever shown.
And there's the big one, fictionalization. Now, what exactly this entails is somewhat hard to pin down, but we can list out its effects here. Fictionalization, as used by Nixon, can erase an entire universe and its timeline, reduce that universe and timeline into a fictional story within another timeline, and remove the power of whatever gets fictionalized.
However, turning something to fiction is, well, tough when the guy you're trying to turn into fiction literally exists more than you do.
The Quantum Superman describes lesser dimensions as being essentially fictional to him, and he is pretty much just Dr. Manhattan as a version of Superman.
And Dr. Manhattan exists on so many more dimensions than one could reasonably prove Nixon at. Nixon, at best, is vaguely higher dimensional. He absorbed part of and imitated the nature of the Horned Serpent megastructure, a structure that is seemingly infinite and of a higher dimension, though to an unknown degree.
Dr. Manhattan, meanwhile, has the power that was a match for fucking Krakatoa, who exists beyond the entire DC cosmology. To put this into perspective, first you have the Orrery of Worlds, which contains all of the universes in the wider DC cosmology, as well as higher dimensions, from as little as 11 to as many as 196,000 to even infinity.
Moving up from that, you get the God Sphere, where concepts exist on a platonic level. Then there's Limbo, the Monosphere, the Source Wall, and everything beyond, each one being infinitely beyond infinitely larger than the last. If we were to put Nixon and Manhattan on this map signifying where they would be in power, they'd roughly end up here. Oof!
And let's be honest, even if you were to argue Nixon as somehow so powerful that he transcends infinite dimensions to the point of seeing them as fiction, the absolute pinnacle you could argue, he'd still only end up at maybe the Spear of the Gods?
You know, where Darkseid is. The Darkseid that is nowhere near the level of Dr. Manhattan.
To put it simply and bluntly as possible, Richard Nixon could not turn Dr. Manhattan into fiction, because from Manhattan's perspective, Nixon was already fictional in the first place.
It would be as effective to Manhattan as if a book you were reading wrote the words and now you, reader, are fictional. You'd see that, and then just keep reading anyway.
Then there's Manhattan's side. Could he kill Nixon by— Yes! Have you been paying attention?
Let's see. He killed the Reverse Flash, who was a universal constant throughout the entire timeline. He destroyed Pandora, who is more powerful than beings that can destroy the infinite multiverse, and his power could match I don't know it either. Who destroys things on a narrative level just by fighting.
So that's that. Case closed. In character, Nixon couldn't do anything to Manhattan. While Manhattan's main method of attack would just instantly kill Nixon if they were forced to fight, even if Nixon reduced Manhattan to being fictional compared to where he began, he still see Nixon as fictional because that's just how far down Nixon is.
But then we can compare their power sets overall. This is where things don't necessarily get closer, but there's more to talk about, technically.
For one thing, and this is relevant in general, but shut up, we're talking about it now. Nixon is unmoored by fate. Whatever future exists out there, Nixon literally does not need to conform to what is predetermined.
This would mean that Dr. Manhattan cannot tell what is going to happen in the fight. Though you could argue with his ability to collapse infinite possibilities into one timeline, that he could force some kind of quantum equivalency of fate onto Nixon, but let's just ignore that and give Nixon this one.
Let's knock out a few powers that they share that neither is particularly better at. Both could move between universes in an unspecified amount of time, can levitate, fucking glow, change size, and create the big booms.
Obviously, turning into kaiju won't really matter when neither of them are really bound to whatever form they take, and causing nuclear explosions isn't going to affect universe-scale pseudo-gods.
On a more specific level though, a lot of Nixon's Alcatraz-based powers simply had no effect on Manhattan.
Taking over matter, controlling minds, warping the material world, none of that even applied to Dr. Manhattan. That thing we call a body is really just a thing. Nixon might be able to take over that body, but it would do nothing. Manhattan's not the body.
This also applies to the Crescent King. You see, the Nixonverse doesn't make it explicitly clear how much of the Crescent King story is fictional and how much is true. But even taking it all literally, his immortality is derived from entering and warping the minds of those that know his name so that he can always be reborn from them.
Again, Dr. Manhattan doesn't even have a physical body or mind to manipulate. The Crescent King would find nothing there to come back from, and Manhattan could easily just erase anyone who does know about him.
On the other hand, Manhattan had plenty of powers we cannot prove Nixon would be able to do anything about.
He could face through any of Nixon's attacks, be fine from any of Nixon's time powers, he could even replicate the magic of characters like Zatanna.
In other words, pretty much any of Nixon's powers, Manhattan could just replicate and throw back at him. So the moment Nixon attempts to fictionalize him, Manhattan could just copy that and do it back, which we know for a fact would work to kill Nixon.
With his capacity to see neutrinos, he could even see every Alcatron within Nixon's body, and use transmutation to turn them into something else. What's stopping him from just turning Nixon into a block of lifeless coal?
I did.
But that's the real Nixon, what'd you do?
Every character in the Nixonverse who shapeshifts and warps is inherently made of Alcatraz matter, using that matter to generate their powers. If Manhattan just turned them into regular matter, there's no way they could return to normal.
And for one last kick in the pants, even if you were to say that as an imitator of the Horned Serpent, that Nixon could come back directly from Wonderland somehow, Manhattan could just destroy that.
He could destroy the Microverse, a similarly infinitely sized and multiverse spanning realm, just by entering one teeny weensy universe that was connected to all of it.
When actually trying, he could directly damage the Speed Force, which exists way beyond Wonderland. Nothing is stopping him from destroying Wonderland and erasing Alcatraz itself.
From a certain point of view, this is sad. Not in the sense of, wow, how pathetic is it that Nixon can't do anything, but from Manhattan's perspective as a character.
All an encounter like this would prove to Dr. Manhattan is that there are other beings like him out there. Other things that through sheer chance became akin to deities, sitting above others, watching them, but never feeling like they fit in. But even when encountering beings that are similar to him, he still stands apart. Even among his familiars, he's still too powerful to relate to them.
To an extent, this isn't even Manhattan's fault. None of Dr. Manhattan's most important scaling or cosmological elements exist in his original graphic novel appearance. Hell, if you only use the original Watchmen comic, there's not really much you can argue for Dr. Manhattan in the first place.
Even our ridiculously highballed number is a percentile of the power necessary to completely annihilate the universe and timeline the way Nixon did.
Manhattan is only as powerful as he is because he was moved to DC. And this isn't even necessarily the fault of the writers of DC who moved him in, it was pretty much a requirement for him to just be this powerful.
To be frank, if you took Manhattan from Watchmen, or hell, even Richard Nixon from Nixonverse, and put them into DC without any changes, they would be nothing special.
Reality warp is on a scale way beyond what Watchmen or the Monument Mythos have ever shown are a dime a dozen in DC Comics. Dr. Fate, Zatanna, Trigon, Darkseid, The Spectre, Phantom Stranger, Mixie fuck his face, Batmite, Eclipso, fuck do I even need to go on? Heck, even Candlemaker! The fuck?
Dr. Manhattan's role in the narrative is being the powerful one. to be the one so far beyond everyone else that he cannot fit in. Within the world of Watchmen, where the next most powerful thing is a psychic squid dropped by a man who calls himself the smartest guy on Earth, it doesn't really require Manhattan to be that powerful.
He could be strong enough to destroy the world, destroy the galaxy, or even just be limited to only being able to destroy a continent or a moon. The specifics don't matter as much, not only because any of those would be immeasurably stronger than what's around him, but also because it's his nature as an atemporal quantum being that truly matters to the story of Watchmen and what it's telling.
In a world like DC, however, where there are heroes with powers who can and logically would attempt to fight him directly, suddenly, for Dr. Manhattan to keep his place, he needs to be much stronger than before, to be someone high enough up on the cosmological totem pole that the reader isn't left thinking, why is he such a big deal? Doesn't Superman deal with Mixie all the time?
Sure, you might think that the average reader wouldn't think much about that, and you might be right. But with how some DC fans could be, you shouldn't really be surprised. Stakes are built on cause and effect. To really give Manhattan the weight of being someone who's so far beyond all the superheroes in the story that he cannot relate to them or see things at their level, he needed to be way stronger than ever before.
Ironically, even when he truly got elevated to the level of a god, he remained a puppet to the strings of narrative requirement. You can argue all over the place whether stories like Doomsday Clock really understood who Dr. Manhattan was as a character. That's not what we're here to talk about. But what it did understand was that he has to be more powerful than those around him to retain his status.
Did DC maybe go a bit too far with all this fucking Krakatoa stuff and using him after Doomsday Clock's conclusion to be a plot point? Maybe. He didn't need to literally sit outside the Omniverse to fit his role, but he was always going to be far beyond the standard reality warpers who exist as superheroes within the primary DC universe, and they are already stronger than Nixon can be reasonably placed.
I'd have told Nixon to eat an apple every day, but we all know that proverb isn't fact, but fiction.
The winner, whether he likes it or not, is Dr. Manhattan.
Next time on Not Death Battle!
You know what they say.
Give me a drink, bartender. Oh, well, these things happen, I suppose.
All toasters, toast toast.
My name's not Shane, kid.
Remind me to check.